within Jet Reports. But let me just first tell you a little bit about our relationship with Associates. We are business partners. So that means we work closely together to help their customer organizations with reporting and business intelligence. We're also a Microsoft Gold Certified partner. We are internationally known with thousands upon thousands of customers in about 89 countries. So you're definitely working with a community that is well recognized and well used and noted across the world in the GP community. So let's talk a little bit about GP right now. Okay, so as you know, in your organizations or your companies, you've got a big mass of data in GP, right? Everyone knows that it's a pretty complex data model with about 1,000 plus tables and about 10,000 plus fields. And so for the average end user who needs to gain access to their data for analytics and dashboards and that type of thing, it might be a little on the difficult side to weed through all that data and figure out which tables and fields you want to use in order to create these reports. So what Jet Reports does is we have a data warehouse. And the data warehouse is pretty simple. It's just an extract of that original GP database. But what we do with the data is we clean it up, we organize it by subject matter. We may also have additional data sources that are coming in as well beyond GP. It could be like an HR system or a third-party billing app or a grants management or donor management system. The list just goes on and on. But anyway, in the data warehouse, we're cleaning up data, we're organizing the data. And then what we do is we go one step further. We've got these things called data cubes. And if you're not familiar with data cubes, it's actually a really simple concept to understand. We can take any combination of tables and fields out of GP or those other data sources and organize it even further. But what we do, and I think is really important to note, is that we've got measures and dimensions in a cube. So a measure could be something like, what's my gross profitability? What's my total sales amount? How much do I have on hand? How much is allocated? What's back ordered? What are my freight charges? So, that's actually the calculation itself with a measure. Then we've got dimensions. Dimensions could be salesperson, city, state, item number, list just goes on and on. So what we do is we combine those measures and those dimensions together, and in that data cube would be the data that you're going to be accessing on a day-to-day basis, because it's streamlined relevant data only to the end user that we want to present. And we present it via Excel. And so I'll be showing you that in a couple minutes. But Excel is definitely, obviously within the Microsoft stack, so lots of people have it. It's an investment that you've already made, so we're not asking anyone to make an additional investment. But I think more importantly is that, with very little training or perhaps no training at all, you can use analytics within Excel. So just a couple of points I want to make about Excel moving forward here. But when we look at business intelligence, we think it's much more of a decision-making solution versus a reporting tool. It enables you to see data over a period of time, so getting trends and be able to create financial dashboards all very easily. Also, oops, sorry, wrong button there that I pushed. You also want to be able to access data for anyone in the organization, and that's definitely possible here at Jet Reports. So really, when we're looking at business intelligence, when we're looking at analytics, we want to be able to ask questions of our data. What were my sales by item over a period of time? What's my gross profitability on my inventory items? List just goes on and on in terms of the types of questions you can ask of your data. And then also make sure you reveal the next best action. So really, what does that mean? That means being able to act upon the data. So if we need to understand why items aren't selling all that well, we've got the data to help us answer those questions. If we are discounting too much, or if we need to shave off some freight costs, we've got the data right in front of us very quickly and easily, all via Excel. And one thing that I will point out is that we don't require any additional GP licenses. So really the ultimate goal of business intelligence is to really turn that massive data that you have in GP and other data systems into information that can be used for intelligence. We also find that a lot of companies and organizations are under-resourced, so they need to get to their data quickly. One thing that a lot of folks don't want to do is wait in line. They don't want to wait for the coding to be complete, or someone to create a report which may be completed, sometime next week. They want the information now, and that's exactly what JET enables you to do. So these are the 7 major points I'll be going over in my presentation today. How fast and easy it is to use JET on the front end, how simple it is to make any modifications in the back end, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. How it drives action, again, asking data-based questions, getting data-based answers. How it's one tool versus an assembly of a variety of tools. So some people may be using a little FRX, now Management Reporter, a little bit of SmartList, a little bit of coding, a little bit of SSRS. They're trying to assemble a BI solution, whereas JET Reports is a complete platform. Something that's usable on an instant basis. You don't want to have to wait, weeks or months to get a BI solution deployed. That's definitely not the case here at JET. We can actually deploy our solution about actually a couple of hours, and a solution that's secure, so that if you have folks that don't need to have access to certain data points, so for example, you don't want your salespeople to gain access to payroll data, that's fine. We can block them out. So with that said, what I'm going to do is just do a switch over into Excel. And again, as Yvette mentioned, in your GoToWebinar window, which is most likely to the right of your screen, you can start typing in some questions, and we will be more than happy to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So this is the front end of JET Enterprise. And as you can tell, it's Excel. We're simply an add into Excel, so we're not stripping away any of the typical functionality that you've grown accustomed to. And again, with just a little bit of training, or perhaps no training at all, the typical end user, someone in sales or inventory, or someone that's working in logistics, the department's list go on, they can gain access to this data without the GP license. But what you're looking at here is an example of a sales dashboard that you can build within JET Enterprise. So I've got information about sales and gross profitability, my products, my salespeople, and the types of businesses we go after. And this data here is hitting those cubes that I was telling you about in the PowerPoint. It's not hitting the live GP data by any means. And what we have around the edges here would be a series of filters. So if I wanted to slice and dice my data, I could do that. So say if I just care about North America's results, I just simply click on North America. If I want to look at 2010's results, easy. I just click on that. If I want to click on another filter of, say, global dimension of large businesses, the types of businesses we go after, I simply click on that particular filter, and my data is changing immediately because I'm hitting that cube. I'm not hitting that live GP data. So what I'm going to do is just simply clear out of the filters here for a second, and then we'll talk a little bit about details on gross profitability. So let's say if I had created this report, or perhaps someone created it for me, and I wanted to change I wanted to change the perspective of this particular metric. How would I go about doing that? So this is something I may have saved, and but I'm getting a little bit hungrier for data. I want to ask some questions, as I mentioned before. So what I do is I simply go into a pivot table field list here. You can see I've got some a dimension, and I've got 3 different calculations or measures: sales, gross profit, and gross profit percentage. I'm going to click on gross profit. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to just click on gross profit percentage, remove that. Now I just have my sales by my quarters here. And let's say if I want to add 2 other calculations or measures, I simply hit cost of goods sold and item quantity, and I've got a brand new perspective. So this didn't take a lot of training, it's a matter of adding what you want and removing what you don't want and getting a brand new perspective, not querying the GP data, not doing any unions or joins or any any SQL coding or anything to that effect that's going to be super complex and will delay the production and the distribution of this particular report. So as an average end user, I'm able to gain access to my data very quickly without any fuss or muss. What I'll do is I'll certainly bring up a brand new reporting template here so you can see how all of this stuff gets started. And what I'm doing is just simply picking on my GP cubes here, and actually what we're going to do is we're going to get a series of tables, the tables as they're called in Excel, but these are just simply the cubes that I was talking about before. So we've got 6 prepackaged cubes. We've got finance, inventory, payables, purchasing, and receivables and sales. A lot of people ask me if we can add additional cubes, and the answer is yes. But we want to get our customers started on some data, and so that's why we've got the prepackaged one. So I'm going to take a look at a reporting template around sales here. And so I walked in the office this morning and I said, what were my sales by item over a period of time? That's the thing that I'm kind of curious about today. So what I'm going to do is simply go into my pivot table field list here. I'm going to pick on one calculation or one measure here called sales. I click on that. I get an aggregate of all the sales numbers together in one number. Then I want to add a couple of dimensions here. So I want to see a time dimension. Okay, I've got my years now. Perfect. And I want to see this information by item type. All right, perfect. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of data. I can see the hierarchy of data underneath. If you notice that there is a duplication of data, say with like a multi-core processor, it just means that we're pulling in data from 2 separate companies. And let's say if I'm interested in this 96,000, I simply double click on it, and I can see the sales order transactions that make up for that top line sales number. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, this is I'm starting to get some question marks answered here, and let's say if I want to take a look at this information by customer, who bought all this stuff anyway? So let's get into a customer dimension. I just simply click on customer. I can see all the customers that purchase certain items. If I kind of collapse this here, I can see all the customers that bought something under sales inventory. I can also filter this off by top 10 and say, okay, who are my top 10 customers? And with a couple of simple mouse clicks, I can see those top 10 customers. Now, for those folks that deal in a multi-company scenario, you might be interested in multi-company consolidation reports. I've heard a lot of horror stories about how people need to kind of combine a number of different Excel reports, and it takes too much time than most folks would want. So what I do here in JET, if I want a multi-company consolidation report, I just go to this dimension called company name, and I click on one thing, and I happen to have 2 companies that I'm working with, but it's a one-click multi-company consolidation report. Makes my life a lot easier, so I don't have to do all that merging of data and spend extra time in the office where I could be working on other projects. So I just do that one-click multi-company consolidation report. I'm good to go. But then, okay, this report is starting to look okay, but we like to have our data organized in just a little bit of a different manner here. So what I'm going to do is just simply go down to the row labels here. I'm going to drag item type under company name. I'm going to drag customer under item type, and yep, that's the way we organize our data. We want the company name, what the product is, and then who bought all these items under sales inventory. Okay, perfect. That looks fine. Now I'm starting to get a little bit curious about my salespeople. How are they doing? So now I'm just going to simply remove company name. I'm going to remove customer here. So I've got my original report. Maybe I want to go up to my salespeople here, and actually wrong field here. Here we go. It's got the salespeople, and we can see how they're performing, and then maybe we measure their performance against gross profitability. So what I'm going to do is just simply add another calculation in, gross profit percentage. All right, now we can see how everyone's doing. Got the same hierarchy in terms of what customers we've sold to. And I can see that, oh, well, Paul here is at 31.22%. Maybe he needs to meet a threshold of 50, on a consistent basis. And we might want to find out what Paul's doing here and, get those questions answered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove salesperson and gross profit again. And, oh, actually, one thing that a lot of GP customers have been asking me lately is give me some information about my gross profitability around my products here. So I just removed salesperson, but I'm going to add that gross profit back in here. So now I've got an instant report on how my products are doing. So I can just see the gross profit on the different products, and then I can do some conditional formatting to kind of rank the top 20% or the bottom 20% and be able to see that information pretty quickly. So that's a report that actually, again, a lot of folks have been asking me for. So I'm just going to go back to my original report here, and I'm going to do a couple more things, and we'll just talk a little bit about the back end for a moment. And okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to get some of those filters in that we saw on the first page. And let's say if I want to filter by company name, I want to filter by year, and I want to filter by item type. I simply just click on what I want. I've got my filters. Good. Oops, that's going to clean up our screen here. And so I can play with the filters much like I did with this sales dashboard. Remember how I hit North America in 2010 and so forth? Well, what I'm going to do is hit Fabricam 2014 and maybe sales inventory. So same concept applies. Really easy to create those filters. Also remove those filters if I want. And I'm going to also add a chart here. So I'm going to add a pie chart in. Maybe I want to, oops, let's get rid of that. And maybe I want to rename this. I've got some formatting capabilities within Excel here. So in honor of our host today, we will call this Yvette's report. And okay, so now we're starting to get a report that's looking good. But the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we schedule it to be run at certain intervals, and also we want to send this out to the proper constituents, those folks that should be consuming this data. So how do we go about doing that? Here in the Jet tab, which will be installed in Excel when you purchase a product, we are going to simply click on the schedule button here. I'm going to hit new task, and I'm going to schedule these reports to be run certain times. So in this case, I'm going to call this the Associates report. We can call that anything we want. We'll go back to calling it Yvette's report too. We can schedule this to be run once daily, weekly, monthly, maybe on a weekly basis, every Wednesday at 1:21 p.m. That's Eastern Time. And we want to run this for the next 10 weeks we said today is Wednesday, so good. We're going to run that for the next 10 weeks at 1:21. And we're going to also email this off to some folks. So we can email using Outlook or any SMTP server. We can also add a message too. So the classic example of where a message would come into play would be, let's say if this was a commission report, and you want to send just an Excel named range, or you want to get the body from an Excel named range. So instead of having a lot of detail in the report, you may want to say, well, Yvette's commission in the month of May was, $5 million. You just want to have a quick little number here. You can just get that information in and simply go from there. So you can add the subject as well. And then this is great in the event that someone's got a PDA, a handheld device. They just want to see a quick snippet of information versus the whole report. But what we're going to do, we can add in some email addresses here. We can say Yvette at, and then we can say my name Karen at, and we've got some output options. So let's say if you want to send a workbook or a values-only workbook for those folks that may be outside of your organizations who should still see this data in Excel, but they're just not going to be able to do all the drilling down and so forth that I did before. Or if you want to send a web page for something like SharePoint, or a PDF. A PDF might be good for, say, the board of directors or a customer or a vendor or someone to that effect. So I've scheduled the distribution. I've scheduled the updates. I'm good to go. I can also run it now if I wanted to. And then I would see, if I had saved this, I would see the task name when it's going to be run. and the status and who created it and so forth. So that's all within Excel. I didn't do anything outside of Excel. I just clicked on something in my Jet tab, and it was that easy. So no importing or exporting that a lot of people are typically used to. At this point, I think I'll just kind of quickly talk a little bit about the back end here. If anyone wants any further details, I'd be happy to provide them. But I'm going to try to keep this a little bit on the short and sweet side, so we don't get too technical. But here we're looking at the back-end Jet Data Manager. This is where actually the designer would spend most of their time. Actually, when we're in Excel, that's where viewers spend their time. So what we can do is we can work with our GP data source here that we already have kind of pre-installed here. If I need to add additional values into a table which contains all these fields, I can simply add values pretty quickly without any coding. So if I need document date to analyze my sales orders and purchase orders, the document dates on those documents, I can simply add those values for future use. Maybe I just click on document date, add that document date information into my data warehouse, and then once we run an update, we can pick up on that on the data cubes. I can also add additional data sources. So if I want to add a SQL Server data source or a generic ODBC data source, I can add something else beyond GP. So that could be a CRM system, a royalties management system, a grants management system. The list just goes on and on. It's an external database that you want to marry the data into GP for the purposes of analysis and everything that I just showed you in Excel. We've got the 6 pre-built data cubes that are available to you. You can also add additional cubes. Let's say if you need to add a HR/PR cube, we can show you how to do that. Pretty easy with some wizard-driven technology. You can also modify the cubes that we already have. So if you want to add another dimension in, or if you want to call a dimension by another name, you can make those modifications. If you want to change something around, gross profit, so instead of, everyone, used to think that, in our kind of our fictitious company here, that gross profit was sales minus cost of goods sold, but now we decided that it's going to be sales minus cost of goods sold minus credits minus returns. How do you change that calculation in the back end? You do that actually through a wizard, and we'll show you exactly how that happens. So the point here is to ensure that you know that you can add cubes, you can modify the measures and the dimensions in a cube, and you can also add measures and dimensions into a cube. And then you can fire off an update as well. So let's say if we need to update all this extracted information in our backend data manager, how do we go about doing that? Because people are continuing to add data into GP. Well, what we can do is do what we call an execution package. I can just set up something to be run, say on a daily or weekly basis, something to that effect. I'm going to update everything that's in the back end here, or I can kind of pick out pieces and parts, maybe one cube I want to update on a more frequent basis than some other cubes. But we're just going to update everything here, and we're just going to simply set up a schedule, and we're going to update everything on a daily or a weekly basis. Maybe we want to do it on certain frequencies or specified hours, maybe sometime way in the morning, and then, I don't know, sometime in the afternoon. I just select the time, so hit OK, and now it's scheduled to update all that new data that's coming into GP, so that when we're here in the front end, we're getting the most relevant up-to-date data that we need in order to make business decisions. So we can also, block data from being accessible to certain folks too. So we talked about these cubes, and we talked about all these fields and these dimensions and these measures and so forth. We can block them out of anything you want, so the cube level all the way down to the field level. So my classic example is, let's say you've got a salesperson, they shouldn't see the payroll data that happens to be in the finance cube. Great, we can just block them out, no worries whatsoever. And when it comes to our solution itself, you would need to have a GP9 or later. The SQL Server version would be actually, let me go to that particular screen here, so bear with me, system requirements. And GP9 or later, SQL Server 2005, 2008, Microsoft.NET 4.0 or later, and the product can actually sit on the same server as GP. We just require about 6 gigs of additional RAM to be available. And then within the JET package, you get everything. You get the back-end JET Data Manager, the front end in Excel, one designer to be working in the back end, unlimited viewers, which is pretty important for a lot of companies because, if you've done a little bit of research on BI, you might find out that, there are some organizations that will charge you per viewer. We just say unlimited. We want you to enjoy our product and be happy with it. We also offer lots of different training options that we can go over on a one-to-one basis to see what makes sense for your company or your organization. Most of our training happens remotely. However, we can come on site, or you can come to our location up in Portland, Oregon. And but we do work closely with Socius, so I want to make sure that we put together a plan together that works for your organization. But keep in mind that our product does deploy in about 2 hours if we have some additional customizations. We're talking a couple more hours, but by no means are we looking at days or weeks or months to get a BI solution up and running for you. So with that said, I think I'm going to kind of take a look and see if we have any questions here. Actually, maybe Yvette could tell me if anyone has entered any questions into the pane.
Thank you, Karen. At this time, I do not see any questions. Feel free to type in your questions in the question box on the right hand of your screen. I'll just give everyone a few moments.
Yeah, actually, the one question that does arise quite a bit is the concept of, do you have any report examples or, something that I'd kind of start out with if I do intend on working with JET? And the answer is yes. And let me just kind of show you this quick little report viewer that we have. So we've got this nice little report player, actually, to be more technical in terms of its proper name. But we do have a number of different reports that you can take a look at and be able to use for your consumption moving forward. So what we do is, we just kind of, pick out a particular report. Maybe it's, your cash position. And let's double click on this one here. There we go. And so you can take one of our prepackaged reports and be able to modify it to your taste. So we'll definitely show you how that happens. But we want to kind of get our customers started in the right direction by having some examples to work with. And the way that I kind of gained access to all this was actually through our JET Reports community. And it's been a while since I've logged in here, so I may have logged me out for security purposes, which is a good thing. And simply log back in. And the JET Reports community is really cool because, here's a place where you can get with other JET Reports users and maybe, look at those shared JET reports. We've got all different reports with GP and so forth. You can borrow one of these and make modifications in order to make it appeal to your business practices and go from there. We also have, oh goodness, what else here? We've got some general discussion, Excel tips and tricks too. Remember how we are an add-in to Excel? So if you want some tips and tricks on how to use Excel a little bit better, this is something a little bit to the side to our reporting, but definitely available to you. And so we try to, have a collection of folks, a forum, a place where people can share ideas, because you just never know what someone's going to come up with in order to make JET Reports even better. And that we do rely upon our community of users as well to bring ideas to the table. So, Yvette, any questions that may have come into the box?
Not at this time.
Okay.
This is a great time to ask questions, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the question box on the right-hand side.
Absolutely. And so, the idea with Excel is that we've got some nice little JET end user training. So if you want to learn how to kind of create these filters and make modifications to a chart, you can do that as well. And we'll definitely get you well suited for the future use of JET reports. But since I believe that there aren't any questions,
Karen?
Yes.
I do have a question.
All right, great.
Can we tie outside databases to GP to create reports? How hard is it to create cubes for outside databases?
Okay, so you can kind of pick out any database, the ones that I was kind of talking about before, like a billing system or a payroll system, any SQL or ODBC compliant data source. Well, what you do is actually in the back end here, in the back end JET Data Manager, firstly, what we do is connect that data source up so you can see the different types of database sources that we work with. And then in the data cube, what we do is we just simply go in and we add a cube. So we're going to point to that table. We need to get into the directories and the file name as well. And then we build out that cube with your specific measures, so the calculations that you want, and the dimensions as well. So, a few simple steps. We can definitely connect to that data source, be able to create a cube on that data source, move forward from there, or you may want to add that data source data into an existing cube. You can do that as well. Does that hopefully that makes sense to the person that inquired.
Also, to add to that, they are interested in interbase and pervasive SQL connections. They're currently using ODBC connections. Does that change your answer?
As long as it's ODBC compliant, then you should be good to go. So we've got a generic ODBC data source, and that's what we call kind of the general ODBC data sources here in the back end.
Okay. I have another question.
Yes.
Is it possible to access the community site prior to purchasing?
Actually, I'll check into that. That is a question I haven't had before, so let me get that answer, and I'll forward it to Yvette. And Yvette, if you could make note in terms of who asked that question, so we forward it off to the right person.
Okay, that works. What is the cost of the product?
Okay. Actually, Yvette, you're okay with me revealing costs?
I am okay.
All right, then let's get that fired up here. So I always like to ask our business partner first, just to make sure. So let me get that into full screen here. So with our new JET Reports users, we're looking at $11,990. That includes implementation. No additional cost for implementation. It includes one designer. The designer is going to be that person in the back end working with the cubes and the data warehouse and so forth. And again, unlimited viewers for our business intelligence solution as well as our reporting solution. We've got 16% maintenance on top of that. Now, if there happens to be any existing JET Reports users on the line, those folks that are using our product, which is commonly known as JET Essentials, we do have an upgrade path for $79.95. Not sure about the mix of the audience, but just to let you know that. And then we can build out a quote for you. We also have lots of different training options, as I mentioned before. Most of our customers will take advantage of our remote options, but we can come on site. You can come up to Portland, Oregon as well. You can add designers if you want. They're actually $8.95 per designer. And then for the additional data sources that someone asked about just about 5 minutes ago, $1,995 per data connection. So, so what we're trying to do here is, reduce eliminate the possibility of having a $30,000 or $40,000 solution that a lot of folks are, commonly used to. We want to make sure it's at a more attractive price point moving forward.
Great. Thanks, Karen. At this time, I do not have any more questions for you.